chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You hear some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Well, good afternoon and happy Friday, everyone. It's good to be back with you right here. Hello, Cayman Islands, Cayman Brack, Little Cayman, and all of our family from near and far. Yes, happy Friday. Hello. I'm Sabrina and welcome, one and all to another episode. I think you can hear me this evening. Oh yes, we got that live and direct, loud and clear. Welcome to another episode of Sabrina Speaks on this fabulous Friday. Cool winds are here, and yes, I'm all for it. We're all about voices of the islands, conversations for the world, and you know the podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. Yes, you are the center today because it is Open Mic Friday. Open Mic Friday on Sabrina Speaks, where your voice is the headline. Your stories are also going to be the spotlight, and your truth is the mic drop. Yes, that's always welcome. So whether you're winding down from work, maybe stuck in traffic, or just taking a vibe somewhere with your peeps, tonight, it's all about you in this space. Yes, you, and no filters, no fluff, just real talk, real issues, real Caymanians speaking their mind. It doesn't matter. Yes, this is your space. You know what? Real people. Let's just not say Caymanians. Real people speaking their minds. Let's be all inclusive because this is the space for it. Every voice matters. So grab whatever it is you got to grab. Send me a message. Give us a call. 345-936-8255 is the number to call. And let's make some noise now. Because again, right here in this platform, you know how it goes. Silence is not an option. We want to hear from you. And your stories might be the one that starts the change we need. You never know. You never know. But you know how it goes here. The content you're about to hear, including any discussions or opinions from myself, guests, and our participants, is intended solely for general, informational, and entertainment purposes. It's not a substitute for professional, legal, medical, or financial advice. I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional for your specific concerns. Bridge Media Limited and all its affiliates disclaims all liability for any decisions or actions taken in reliance on the information presented. And trust me, it is good to be back. Like I said, if this is your first time to this space, we are live here from the Cayman Islands, and we are bringing you a Sabrina Speaks, a live podcast right here on cmrtv.com platforms every Monday to Friday from 5 p.m. until 7. And all are welcome to participate. Just do it with respect. And you and I will be the best of friends. If you want to call in or WhatsApp, That number again is 345-936-8255 to be a part of this discussion and any discussions that we have here. Yeah. I know a lot of you are making plans for the weekend, even though it is not a long weekend at all. Harry, let me tell you something. Leave that to the United States of America. I see you. Leave it. There's a reason why I haven't gone there. But before we go there, I'm going to big all of my students up who are here and definitely speaking. Let's take a look at our weather here in the beautiful Cayman Islands, as in case you got plans for this evening, tomorrow, just out for the weekend. Now, the synopsis calls for fresh to locally strong winds are expected with rough seas through tomorrow morning. A small craft advisory is in effect, and small craft operators and sea bathers are asked to exercise caution. Now, the cold front is expected to become stationary east of Jamaica by Saturday, with moderate fresh winds maintained behind the front as a high-pressure system lingers. Satellite imagery shows scattered clouds across the Northwest Caribbean. The forecast for tonight calls for partly cloudy with a 20% chance of showers. Temperatures will fall to the low 70s. Winds will be north to northwest at 15 to 20 knots. Seas will be moderate to rough with wave heights of 4 to 6 feet. Swells are expected along northern and western coast. A small craft advisory will be in effect. Now, tomorrow's forecast calls that a small craft advisory will remain in effect, and the forecast is forecasted for occasionally cloudy with a 20% chance of showers. Now, temperatures will rise near the mid-70s. Winds will be north at 15 to 20 knots, and seas will be moderate to rough with wave heights of 4 to 6 feet. Swells are expected along northern and western coast. There'll be a low tide at 6:47 this evening, a high tide at 1:25 a.m. Another low is at 7:22 a.m. Sun is going to set this evening at 6:20 and sunrise tomorrow morning at 6:58. Now, the outlook calls for that small craft advisory remaining in effect and for moderate to fresh northerly winds to persist into Sunday, with generally moderate seas as the high pressure system builds. Now, there you go. That is your weather forecast for this evening and heading into the weekend. And any plans that you're making, just make sure you keep that on the forefront. But I love the cool temperatures here, and I know many of you are enjoying it as well. Now, let's do a little quick fire roundup for the biggest stories that are making waves here at home and across the region, and even, yes, the United States. They're included. Let's keep it local. Now, the government has launched, as you know, the My eID, a new voluntary digital ID card, but only 900 people have signed up so far. Public trust remains lukewarm. Big congratulations to class of 2025 from the Public Works Department Construction's Trade Training Program. Now, these graduates have completed a full year of hands-on training in key trades like carpentry, electrical, and HVAC, earning international certifications and stepping into Cayman's workforce ready to build the future. This isn't just a celebration, it's an investment in local talent and national development. Now, in other local news, a woman has pled not guilty to causing death by dangerous driving. The charge stems from a fatal traffic incident, and the case is now moving forward in court. We'll be following this closely as it develops, and stay tuned for updates on the proceedings and what this could mean for road safety and accountability here in Cayman. Now, a deep sea expedition is underway as Cayman partners with the UK to explore and protect our marine ecosystem. And also, small businesses are sounding the alarm, citing rising costs and stagnant revenues. Many say they're barely staying afloat. And over 1,700 households are now relying on government assistance, prompting a $2.6 million boost in social support funding. Let's take it over into Caribbean headlines. In Belize, the Prime Minister is calling for urgent international talks to address Cuba's deepening crisis. And in Jamaica, they're investing in digital infrastructure to expand broadband access island-wide. A telecom merger also in Belize is under fire, with business leaders demanding transparency and public consultation. And in Haiti, political turmoil continues as the Transitional Council moves to oust their prime minister. The United report warns that violence against children remains widespread across the Caribbean, calling for urgent reforms. Now, in U.S. headlines, the White House has launched Trump RX, a new federal website aimed at lowering prescription drug prices. But critics question its long-term impact. And in a chilling discovery, the United States authorities have uncovered an illegal biological lab operating out of a Las Vegas home. Now, in this report, over 1,000 samples of unknown substances were seized, including vials stored in household refrigerators. The FBI is investigating possible links to a previous case involving a Chinese national arrested for smuggling biohazardous materials. This raises serious questions about biosecurity and public safety, especially when dangerous materials are found in residential neighborhoods. Now, we'll definitely be watching closely as this story continues to develop. Now, the 2026 Winter Olympics has officially opened in Italy, and we've seen where the Vice President, Mike Pence, is leading the U.S. delegation over there. Caribbean is also making their mark as well. I'm excited, definitely. Now, history was made on Wall Street today. Did you guys hear this? The Dow Jones Industrial Average has officially crossed the 50,000 mark for the first time ever. The index surged more than 1,100 points in a powerful rally driven by tech stocks and a rebound in Bitcoin. Now, it's a symbolic milestone that reflects investors' confidence. But what does it mean for us here in Cayman? Well, Cayman's economy, we know, is deeply tied to global markets, and a strong Dow often signals confidence in U.S. growth, which can boost investor sentiment, increase tourism, and strengthen our financial services sector. Pension funds and investment portfolios linked to U.S. equities could see gains. But remember, what goes up comes down. So while this is a moment to watch, it's also a moment to stay smart. Now, there you have it. That is our news pulse for the week, including some of the top headlines that were making headlines this week. For the depths, we've taken it from the depths of the reefs to the halls of Congress. You got it right here, right here. And it's good to have you all joining us this evening, and welcome one and all. Let me just say huge happy birthday shout outs to everybody who's celebrating a birthday today, who have celebrated a birthday. Happy belated birthday, happy anniversary, happy life, happy everything. And for those of you who have upcoming birthdays over the weekend, happy birthday from all of us here at the Sabrina Speaks family. We are celebrating, and every day above ground, you got to give thanks. Hey, Connie Bonnie, how are ya? It's good to see you. Happy Friday to you as well. Damien Henry is also here with us. Yes. Hey, Marshall. Harry, I see you. It's good to have you here. Justin White, M50. Hello. Thank you very much. I'm just going to leave that alone, Harry. I told you that. Mitzi Tomlinson is in the house. It's good to have you. How's the weather up that side? Are you guys indoors, or are you just taking it all in? It's cool down here in Prospect for sure. Yes. Jimbo is in the house. Beautiful people. It's Wind Down Friday for Jim. Your wish Jimmy, Jimmo, Jim Dean. Your wish. Wishful thinking, but very soon. Thank you for understanding, Harry. Thank you so much. That's what I like with you. I get that you understand. You get it quick. Yes, there too. See, Jimbo didn't forget you, Connie Lynn. He's also sending you those cheers as well. Yep. It's good to have you all here with us. Jose Fernandez, use and install a new one. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyhow, Alfred, hello. Good evening to you. Happy Friday, my dear. I'd like to bring up the rollout of my EID. The new National ID Identity Card, that's now open for Caymanians applications with non-Caymanian residents currently on a wait list. It's meant to make government and private sector interaction smoother, reduce paperwork, and provide a secured way of providing identity. But the early uptake is under 1% of the population so far. Raises a few deeper points worth examining. Yes, and that was a part of the heads up because you saw it. That was one of the first things that I reported. Now, what is that? Is it lack thereof education, distrust in privacy? What could be the apathy? What could it be? Understanding that the first rollout is for Caymanians first. And if there's a slow uptake in that, Alfred Real, let's see. Now, you further said that the rollout prioritizes Caymanians first, with others effectively in a queue. That stirs question about fairness and access, especially given how many long-term residents and work permit holders we have here in these islands. How does this align with our sense of community and who gets included in essential services? Very good question. 345-936-8255 is the number to call if you want to weigh in on that. Excellent question. It is open mic right here. We can open it up. I love to hear you guys when you actually weigh in on this. Good evening, Annie. Welcome to class. It's good to have you here with us as usual on this fabulous Friday as we go into the weekend. It is open mic Friday. We turn that all over to you because it is your turn, your topic, your subjects. Alfred also says, government officials say the system is secure and built on strong data protection, yet many community comments show real anxiety about privacy, data centralization, and cyber risks. Fears that go beyond convenience and into how much we trust institutions with sensitive personal information. Now, Alfred Real, that has been the top conversation of exactly all that you've actually pointed out there with fears and apprehensions, to be honest. And based on the commentary that I have seen on multiple platforms and in media as well, and even speaking directly once I'm out and about, is that the biggest fear of confidentiality. Only a small percentage, maybe I haven't been in their conversations, have said that it is down the road of control. But the biggest concern is that what am I going to need it for? I don't need my business out there. Now, if you keep hearing confidentiality, I don't need my business out there, and it's information that is pretty much already in the government's domain that they have anyhow, and it's now just being digitized. I'm just spinning here for conversation purposes. Say for you going in or the place getting robbed, let's say, everything is pretty much already uploaded in a digital format anyhow, ready to roll this out. Is there then a lack of better PR that is needed? Do you say, but for something, and we have seen where this has literally blown up in regional jurisdictions. We see where pretty much Barbados had to draw the brakes on it a little bit. We see where Jamaica tried and they actually failed somewhat and they're bringing it back up again. But when you look at other jurisdictions that have actually tried to roll this out, they have not really been 100%, or even I would say 80%. Please stand to be corrected with my percentage, successful with rolling it out for the same reasons. The concerns that are in the public's domain, Alfred, that you've mentioned, is one and seen even across the region when it comes to EID. When it comes to the digital footprint, I've even heard the world order being called into it. I've heard even talks about the mark of the beast being marked into it. I've heard where this is all in preparation for, this one globalization. And why does Cayman have to do this? When you look at what a government is trying to roll out, and we have heard that conversation on this platform, many tend to say that it's not coming from a perspective that is unbiased, that they're going to pitch it because they're selling a narrative to get what they want. And the aim is to actually roll out this EID, okay? So you wouldn't, this is just conversations that I'm saying, because you have the critics and those who are on the fence, those who are for, those who are against, and those are who, well, let me see really where this is going to go. And you have some that'll be like, I don't give two shakes of a duck's tail whether or not it comes out. I ain't going nowhere. I'm at a certain stage of my life. I will have to just, live out my days, whatever, but I'm not going to get it. Okay, fine. What I'm thinking is creating this apathy is that maybe the PR is not covering all sectors in making sure that they can explain why. Yes, we understand it's modernizing. Yes, everything is being digitized. Yes, it makes us the leading in the region with our infrastructure that continues to improve. In the headlines, we're seeing where even Jamaica is actually bolstering up their infrastructure. We're seeing where the Maya fiber cable was hot debated and passed successfully on the floor of Parliament as well. But when you go into this EID and where the world from a global perspective and saying, well, we don't need it here. We don't need it here. We spoke a day before yesterday about Sunday trade. And then we spoke about other things where you can see where we're changing. Nationally, I feel, Alfred Real, that we have to get at some point where we all sit down or get in a space to really find out what is the trajectory of our island, where we want to go, where we see ourselves. Do we want to freeze and stop now and be wherever we are right now in development? That's it. Stop population growth, however you're going to do that. I'm just throwing this out here for conversation. And then in, let's say, 10, 15 years, be almost like a Gilligan's Island with no updated infrastructure, but then we still want to maintain a certain quality and standard of life. I don't know. I'm just asking all of these questions because at some point, nationally, a general conversation with all of these things that are happening, it's not like, I'm going to be honest with you, it's not like the powers are be. It's not that our leaders are not saying this is where we're heading. You're seeing the amount of legislations that are being brought forward or being amended. You may not necessarily understand what they mean, but that is charting the course for where we are going. And if one thing, like the EID, is the only thing that's catching your attention, how do you know that that's not a part of a bigger picture? But if you don't speak, if you don't ask the questions of your MP, or worse, you can't ask certain questions because you're not even able to identify it, and then you expect them to be truthful and honest with you, which many people right now globally and regionally are losing hope, where trust of their elected leaders and honesty is becoming diluted, is the semblance, then spaces like this is where it all begins. I dropped in on a particular show this morning and I heard a comment, and that's what caught my attention. And the caller actually says, it was very brief, concise. They were just upset at the cost of living. And that is on the lips of everybody right now, Alfred, and I digress for a second. But you could hear the frustration in that caller's voice. All they said was, and you could hear the frustration, every government says they're going to do something about cost of living, and I'm paraphrasing, but then they end up saying they can't do anything about it. What's going to happen is that there's going to be a riot. That's what was said. Bang. That's somebody who was willing to be vocal on a public platform. Does that represent really how everyone feels? But it only takes one. What we need to be fearful of is what's not being spoken. That's what we need to bring concern. So even though the EID right now is a slow uptake and Caymanians were given first priority to do it, I have sources to say that maybe the slow uptake in it is because many of those who are going to get registered refuse to get acknowledged. Yeah. And if you fail to do that process, there's an issue with what is actually printed out on that ID card that determines your nationality. And if you do not right now check the boxes and get acknowledged out of anger or whatever, then guess what? Your nationality will not be displayed as Caymanian. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Sabrina Speaks. It's Open Mic Friday. What's on your mind? Welcome.
Good evening, Sabrina. Thanks very much. Very, very interesting discussion today. But I was listening in yesterday as well to the discussion yesterday, which ranged from garbage to refugees. You know,
from one thing. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there is a way in which they are very disparate subjects, but they are sort of like loosely connected in that they are talking about how sometimes people come in and sometimes they change the culture. So I suppose there's a loose connection there. I just wanted to say something about those two things, and then I want to say something about the court case which is coming up. Two court cases of mine coming up before the Court of Appeal, because I think they are. I've mentioned them to you a little bit before. But I think it's important for people to understand how those cases are likely to affect them, and how they affect the whole business of the rule of law. Okay. It's very interesting about this refugee issue, because, originally the idea of refugees, and people know this, it was never meant to assist you to go to another country and seek a better life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, a better life in the sense of, going there to get a better job, better salary, and so forth. That was not the original idea of refugees. And in fact, even the current instruments, international instruments on refugee status, as well as individual country laws, what they were meant to do was to assist people,
Mm-hmm.
those people who were being persecuted on the basis of, it might have been race, religion, tribe, ethnicity, the way in which, for example, the Jews were being persecuted. Okay, now the Jews were persecuted at a very high level. And although we don't speak about that, in Africa, even more people than the Jews were killed by certain Western powers, but we don't talk about that. But that's a discussion for another day.
Mm-hmm.
But basically what I'm trying to say is that that's what it was meant for. But then what has happened is, because as different parts of the world now, it's much easier to travel, and we know more about other parts of the world. People have started to have been using this refugee legislation. In my view, abusing it. How many people do you think who come from South America, Central America or South America to go to the United States? How many of them are suffering persecution on the basis of, race, color, creed, tribe, and so on? How many? No. The overwhelming majority are going to seek a better life, but they really don't meet that threshold of being refugees. That's where Donald Trump, for some of the wrong things he does, he is right about that at basic technical level. Although I think the way he talks about it is more like a racial thing, which I don't approve of. But at least at a legal level. So, I mean, in Cayman, I haven't quite checked the refugee legislation, but I think there was some legislation which was put together after a while. And that I expect reflects these ideas. Refugee legislation has been used even for some people who've been in. There was a case in the United States of a woman who came from a country where they have genital mutilation, and she claimed refugee status on that basis. Oh, and she succeeded. Yeah, she did. But you see, if you are going to claim that anything like crime or any kind of little persecution, even if it is individual and then half the people in the world qualify to be refugees, and that is not what was intended. The other thing that's interesting, one of the people who messaged yesterday said something which was correct, which was that when you escape your country of origin and you arrive in what I think is called the first country of safety, you can't now come from that country and look for refugee status in a third country. Because if you are escaping persecution, once you get to a second country where that persecution doesn't exist, then what is the basis upon which you want to leave that country to go to a third country and to say you are going there as a refugee? You are no longer a refugee. It's now you are trying to exercise a choice. You are trying to say, okay, I'm here, I'm now safe, but I don't want to be here in Jordan. I came from Iran. I don't want to be in Jordan here, but I want to be in Canada. And then you apply to go to Canada. But that said, Sabrina, there has been also some hypocrisy on the part of certain countries in the West. Because even if they could deny refugee status to some people on that basis, they still give it to them for political reasons. If they are on good terms with that particular country. Then they are more loose about giving status, and then some refugee status. And then some people, you will find that if, say, they worked at a high level of government, like, say, an intelligence officer, those people who really have a lot of information, they will give them refugee status even if they really technically don't qualify. Why? Because they are a valued asset.
They're an asset, Yeah,
exactly. They are an asset. So, yes, this is an area where both sides, I think, need to say, what do we want? Do we want to continue interpreting this legislation in this way, or do we want to use it really for what it is intended?
But under human rights, is that fair? Is that fair? Under human rights in general, would that be fair that your fate determines on what your social status is?
No, it shouldn't be determined according to your social status, because you can be persecuted either as a former politician, even a former president, or you can be persecuted at a very low level where, like the way they had it in Rwanda, where you are a Hutu living in this house. The person in the next house is a Tutsi, and therefore that other person brings the other Tutsis to come and throw you out. So you can suffer this persecution at any point. It can be low level or high level. But at the end of the day, I do believe eventually that it will change. If you look at the United States, even in Canada, although there's no big immigration resistance in Canada, but Canada also is looking at it because they are saying a few things relating to work, a few things relating to the price of houses. Like in Ontario, for example, the price of houses, because of people coming in to buy, from China and all over the place,
Right.
the price has gone up. And I think 2 years ago, Justin Trudeau, I think he put in a squeeze, he prevented foreigners from buying land. I think I can't give you the actual details of it. So all I'm trying to say is that in a lot of Western countries where people are trying to go, there is increasingly a feeling that this has to be regulated, although it can never be stopped. Why? Because these Western countries need the expertise, the labor. They need both skilled and unskilled labor, and that can never really be stopped. But anyway, that's the thing about refugee status. And talking now about the more important issue of garbage.
No pun intended.
No pun intended.
How you actually went in from refugee to talking about garbage. Oh my God, I hope that's not misread.
Yeah, it was almost as if it's connected. It's totally unconnected, It's totally unconnected. You were very quick to catch that. It didn't occur to me, actually.
You'd be surprised what I pick up, sir.
So, you see, this issue about culture changing is always a concern. In any country, once your forefathers come in, they build a certain community, there's a way you feel that you own that community, and also certain cultures which develop there, especially if they are good cultures. You want to preserve them. So you want people who come in to be able to blend in well. The culture always changes. Okay, it will always change, but what you ask for usually as a people is to say it shouldn't change too quickly, and then it shouldn't be erasure. You shouldn't erase the culture that exists there. And then there are certain things really you don't want to change because they are good things. Like, for example, who wants to change the culture of cleanliness in Cayman? That you don't want to change.
We're fighting right now. Hence the topic yesterday. It's a fight.
Yeah, exactly. It's a fight. I remember when my little modest place in Cayman, when I got it, it's somewhere near Triple C School there. It wasn't in a very good shape. At the end of the small apartment block, there was just a heap where the residents were throwing garbage. Just a rubbish heap.
Wow.
Okay? No garbage can. And then the pool, forget about the pool. The pool, you wouldn't even be sure whether it was really a pool because every twig and something which came in through the hurricane was still there and so forth. But when I got there, I went and bought 8 garbage bins, and I told the starter, you can refund me later on, but I'll buy these 8 garbage bins. And then went to the end of the building, and I picked up a spade, and I started shoveling the dirt and putting it in the garbage bins. And 1 or 2 of my fellow residents saw me, and when they saw me doing that, they came and joined in.
Wow.
So we did
it only takes a spark.
So exactly. And then we took all that stuff, put it in the 8 bins, covered them up, and it was starting to look reasonable. And then then we worked on the little modest pool that we have there, and we removed everything, got somebody to come and do the diamond bright, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And today we've got a little modest pool which is working there. So these are things that
Culture.
Culture. Yeah, it's culture you can do. And you see, the culture also has to be nurtured in the schools. When I was going to school, our teacher would tell us, we go into the yard and tells us, I want you from this end to that end. I want you to pick up all the papers and everything that you think shouldn't be there. And we would walk there and pick them up and then say, okay, go outside the fence now, pick up everything. And then we would do that. And then after we did that, then the teacher would come and walk around and then take us back there. Said, you didn't do a very good job. Okay? this tin shouldn't be there. The paper shouldn't be there. And so just to give you that greater sense of what clean is and what should be on the ground and what shouldn't be. And I found that grew up in me. I'm a sort of person who, I'm sorry to mention this, if I go into a bathroom, before I leave the bathroom, anything that looks like a drop of water or a dirt ring, I will take 15, 20 seconds to clean it off. Why? Because there is a way in my head. It just, I refuse to leave the bathroom with that kind of thing. Nobody has to write a notice there that clean up this. So those are things reading have to be nurtured
instilled in
They
you
have to
from
be-
the home, the school, and from a young age.
Exactly. My kids actually used to say when they were growing up, they used to say, "Daddy, you've got an obsession, you know, this is very compulsive." Because every time, like there's a time I wasn't with them, like I would be in Cayman and then I would go to visit them. And then when I go to the house, when I go there, they just find I go into the bathroom and I clean it up. And I don't tell anybody. I clean it up. And then when they go there, they say, "Oh, Daddy, you've done it again." You see, so that kind of thing. But anyway, the other thing I wanted to talk about, Sabrina, is about these two matters which are coming up before the Court of Appeal. I've got two matters coming up before the Court of Appeal. Both of them are unprecedented, but I'm more interested, in a sense, in the one that has to do with judicial review, because both of them are very important to people. People need to really follow this very carefully. Without going into detail, there is an appeal coming up before the Court of Appeal. This is the judicial review I brought against the Judicial and Legal Services Commission. Basically, I complained against a judge, no names, although the name is on the website, but I prefer just not to mention the name. I complained against this judge. This judge lied. This judge denied me a hearing which he had scheduled for 2 days. I've got 13 emails which show that he lied in saying he denied me a hearing because I asked for the hearing shortly before the physical hearing and so on. But they found that he was not guilty of anything. So I brought a judicial review. I brought a complaint before the Judicial Commission. They said that you've got no case. There's nothing wrong that the judge did, but they never quoted my emails. It went before the Grand Court, before Justice McCarthy, who was a judge who they brought in from Barbados, because I told them that I don't think that any judge of the Grand Court can give me a fair hearing. I lost that judicial review. I've now brought an appeal to the Court of Appeal. Now, what is unprecedented in this matter is that I wrote to the governor and I said, "Governor, considering what has gone on in this matter, the way it has gone up and down and left, right, and center, I do not believe that I can get a fair hearing before the Court of Appeal." There are 7 Court of Appeal judges in the Cayman Islands. I said 4 of them have already looked at it and they've said, well, there's nothing here. This is like when in its first iteration before it went to the Judicial Commission. So I told the governor, you need to appoint ad hoc judges of the Court of Appeal to hear this matter. Otherwise, I will not get a fair hearing. And yeah, so I got a letter 2 days ago, 3 days ago, I think now, from the governor to me, a 2-page letter, which told me that, well, she has accepted, she has appointed 3 judges, and these are judges who are lords of the Court of Appeal in England. They are current serving judges of the Laws of Appeal in England. They will come to hear my case. She appointed 3 of them. 1 of them has withdrawn, but they are trying to replace that one. And I have their names. I have the names of the judges who have been appointed. So what is unprecedented about that is that, one, there's never been a judicial review against a judicial commission. That's one. And secondly, there has never been a case I am aware of since I came to Cayman 2003 where all members of the Court of Appeal have been recused from a case so that it can be heard by
fairly.
else.
And fairly.
And yeah, you know, it's And you see, the important thing here is this. There have been some complaints against judges. For example, from 2012 to about 2015, that 3 years, there were complaints against 9 judges. This is in the report of the Judicial and Legal Service Commission, which was prepared for that period of time. There were 9 judges who were complained against. We do not know who these 9 judges are. We do not know the nature of the complaints. We do not know how it ended. And yet, with my association with people in the Cayman Islands, I know there are a lot of problems in the judiciary. There was somebody I was speaking to only last week who was trying to see if I can help them to try and file a certain complaint against a certain judge. So there is quite a bit which is taking place. And I think it is important that this case go to the Court of Appeal, let them hear it, and then we'll see what happens. And I'll tell you what it is about.
So would you say, sir, that you've already actually, that's almost like a small win for you, because your request has actually already been honored to actually have persons represent you that are not local?
I have to, my answer to that, Sabrina, has to be yes.
A small win, yeah. I mean,
it's a small win, yeah. Because in the past, I had asked, okay, at the Grand Court, I had asked for a Grand Court judge to be sourced from another jurisdiction, and they did do that. But that judge, in my view, still was not independent. Look, I mean, he was sourced by the same people I was suing. So. But then when it went then before a single judge of the Court of Appeal, and the decision she gave, I think, was so bad, and clearly she was not acting fairly. But the court allows you to, if you lose before one Court of Appeal judge, you can take it before the Court of 3. So I lost in the Grand Court, I lost before one Court of Appeal judge, and now I'm going to the full group. Oh, wow. I consider that to be a victory, because I think it also makes the ones who are appointed more careful, not to make the same mistake. I just hope so.
Well, you're getting a comment here from Shaka Zulu, says, thanks for setting the precedence for us, sir. I doubt Caymanian would have gotten that level of consideration even if there was as relentless as you were. Shaka Zulu, I must say, the power in knowing will lead to one's success. Mr. Balika is just fortunate that he is learned and he knows the system and he takes his time. Many people may say, well, why is he bringing his cases here? Why is he talking about his cases here? The moral of everything that Mr. Balika has shared here is because, like you rightly actually pointed out, thanks for setting the precedents for us. And what Mr. Balika is doing with the system is available for anyone to actually go down that course if they're aggrieved. Continue, sir.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, I agree and also empathize with what the other person has said. Caymanians tend not to be given the same consideration. But let me tell you something. I have been denied certain things just like Caymanians are denied. The only reason that really these people have done it is because, and that's where I agree with the comment there, that because I know how to fight the system. Okay. And that's one of the reasons I continue doing this, because I know there's a lot of other people who can't fight the system because
they don't know.
If they don't know, they don't know how to fight. They can't go to a lawyer and pay $50,000 in order for this to be corrected. I'm not paying a lawyer. I do take the risk of incurring costs from the other side in case I lose.
Right.
But at least I don't have to pay a lawyer to do this for me. Although usually it is advised that don't be your own lawyer, always get another lawyer to represent you, because, it's not just the best, it's too emotionally racking and so forth. But you see, I really don't have an option.
Yeah.
I have to fight this, because if this can be successful, then I think that the judges will be more careful what they do, so that they can self-censor to the benefit of the community.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, for example, what the thing. I mean, it's got 22 grounds of appeal. I won't mention all of them. Let me just mention 3 of them, very short ones. One of the problems is that, you see, when you complain against a judge, according to the current constitution, the Chief Justice is supposed to decide the matter.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened in this case is that the matter was sent by the Chief Justice to the Judicial Commission. They looked at it. They recommended to the Chief Justice that it should be dismissed. But you see, the Chief Justice, when she dismissed it, she didn't say that I have accepted the recommendation and therefore your case is dismissed. What she said in her letter was, this is the recommendation I've received, and therefore your case is dismissed. So what I told the Chief Justice, I said, Chief Justice, according to the Constitution, you're the one who's supposed to make the decision. I expect you, if you agree with the decision, I expect you to say, this is the recommendation I've received. I accept the recommendation, and therefore I'm dismissing your case. Because if you just tell me, this is the recommendation I've received, and therefore your case is dismissed, you are somehow suggesting that the decision was the one made by the commission,
And not
and
what
you didn't make a decision. You were just conveying it.
That's a loophole
Now,
right there that you picked up.
Exactly. You see, there's a lot of case law which makes it very, very clear that if there are one person has got the power to recommend, the other has got the power to decide, it must be clear when you decide the matter that the decision is actually yours, not that. And not that of the person who recommended. There was a case in the UK, for example, where if you applied for a certain permit, you went to the Ministry of Agriculture. They made some comments. And then when it came to the Ministry of, I think it's Commerce or whatever, they developed a practice where they said, oh, if the Ministry of Agriculture doesn't recommend it, then we don't grant the license. And the same argument I was making now was made before the Court of Appeal in the UK. And the Court of Appeal agreed. They said, if you say you can't grant a license unless the other ministry recommends it, then you are not making your own decision. You should act in your own deliberate judgment. If you agree with the recommendation, say you agree. But if you say we can't grant it unless agriculture says so,
right,
then it means you are abdicating your responsibility. See? So that's one of the issues which arises out of there. And then another one is that, you see, when you consider how strong the evidence was against the judge, it was documented evidence. And then the matter went through about 10 judges altogether. You know, in the last 5 to 6 years, it has gone through about 10 judges. Not one of the judges, Sabrina, has quoted the 13 emails that are incriminating against the judge. And yet they've all been willing to say, this is unreasonable, you've got no case, da-da. But they have never quoted the emails which form the basis of my case. So my argument is that this is unreasonable. In law, there is a ground called unreasonableness. If an authority does something which is so unreasonable that no reasonable authority can make that decision, that's a ground upon which the court can interfere. Also, there was there was a recommendation which was made by the former court administrator. The former court administrator sought independent legal advice from some KC, and that KC said, look, considering the importance of this case and the strength of the evidence, I think that he recommended that there should be an oral hearing where you can cross-examine witnesses, put in some documents and so forth. That was what the lawyer recommended. But the commission ignored that advice. They just decided it on the basis of paper. So there are other things. So those are the things that are going to have to be dealt with. I believe that if I can be successful, I think maybe we might manage to hold judicial officers accountable. By the way, you know, the Judicial and Legal Service Commission is a very high-powered body, right?
Yes.
The members of it are the President of the Court of Appeal, the Chief Justice. There's the President of the Caribbean Court of Justice, the President of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, a certain lawyer called Colette Wilkins, who I know I worked with her on the Freedom of Information law. Then I think there's Mr. Nick Freeland, who is, I think, who is the chair. And then there's another person I forget. So they're a very powerful group. Now, this is a new Judicial and Legal Service Commission. Other than the Chief Justice and the President of the Court of Appeal, the others are new. The last Judicial Commission, was found guilty by the Ombudsman of maladministration because they sat down for 7 years. They were not putting together the rules which were necessary for people to complain. And again, that's something which I pushed. They refused to do the rules and until the Ombudsman found them guilty of maladministration, and they put together the rules. So now the rules, as a result of my complaint,
right,
and the decision of the Ombudsman, now there are rules which you can follow if you want to complain against a judge. So that is something positive that came out of that fight which I waged for about 6 years. So I'm
Mr.
hoping that we
Balika,
can continue with it.
A lot of people who I'm going to be the common person who is not anyone who has ever probably picked up a law outside of a gazette or hear certain conversations being had in a public space. The average person retains a lawyer to represent them in their best interest. Hopefully that they will get that back based on the monies paid. But a lot of persons are intimidated when you hear all of these labels, all of these titles, and they're just intimidated by the system. What gives you that encouragement? I mean, including your knowledge, and you're not fearful because you're accustomed to being in that space. But for someone who has never worked in the space, don't understand it, know they have their right in their hand, but just needs navigating it without being intimidated by titles, by positions. How does persons even are able to navigate, obviously, this complexity that you have gone through that are setting precedents? How does the average person benefit then if they're not even able to identify it?
Well, that is the problem. I mean, if you go back into the system, for example, long time ago, all over the Commonwealth, there never used to be legal aid.
Correct.
You just had either money to pay a lawyer or not. But people lobbied and they said, you see, especially that when you go to court, if you lose, they charge you costs and filing fees and so forth. Surely the government must find a way in which to assist people who don't have that kind of money to get justice. And then they worked on the system. They said, okay, fine, there's going to be legal aid, but before you get legal aid, you have to show that you've got a good case and so forth. And so progress was made in that respect. And another thing that I'm fighting for at the moment, which is relevant to this very subject, is the issue of costs. You see, if you go to court, today and you lose, and if the lawyer on the other side was being paid, the lawyer of your opponent was being paid, for example, $600 an hour, then when you lose, you have to pay not just your own costs, but the costs of that particular person. But then, if you win, and the other person has to pay you costs, if you are not represented by a lawyer, you can only get $30 per hour. Okay? So what does that mean? It means that, you see, if you are always better off to have a lawyer, because if you pay a lawyer $500 and you win, you get paid $500 per hour. If you lose on the other side, you get $500. But you see, it is unfair, because if I win, if I am only going to get $30 an hour, and when you win, because you have a lawyer, I will pay you $500 or $600 per hour. That's not equality before the law.
Right.
I have another appeal. This one was an appeal from a magistrate to a judge, which has to be looked at. So I've got 3 appeals: 2 before the Court of Appeal, 1 before the Grand Court. But the one before the Grand Court, I'll tell you what I think the problem is. There is something that I pointed out. They have been charging fees under the Grand Court Act or rather under a certain practice direction, which have never been legislated upon.
How is that legal?
They are refusing to. No, it's not legal. And that's why they are refusing to set a date of hearing. My suspicion is that I think they want to amend the law before they hear my case.
Oh.
But
that wouldn't be the case because you shouldn't. Would that be legal constitutionally? Because there was nothing in effect.
Exactly. There will be some constitutional problem there because you are now trying to apply it with retrospective effect.
Correct.
And, so now there are certain cases where retrospective legislation is allowed. There are other cases where it is not allowed. So I won't give away my strategy. But
sorry, again, this is like playing a game with dominoes and you playing with somebody who match. It just common sense that just rolled off my tongue. I'm sorry. It just wouldn't be constitutional in my humble opinion.
Because it means that you see there is what you call accrued rights. If something is accrued under old legislation, generally speaking, you can't undo it because it has already accrued, even if it has not been paid. Okay, so that's basically the point that you are making. I know that in your mind you had already developed it, but I just gave it a little bit of a different language.
Thank you.
Now, the other thing, Sabrina, is the one about the protection order. That's also very important to the public.
Mm-hmm.
Those who might have read the story in the campus and the CMR, they know that a protection order was given, against me, and we've talked a little bit about it on your show. That case I've appealed because I think the judge really messed up. One, that there's no record of that hearing. There's no audio, there's no video, there's no physical record, nothing. That's one. Two, I'm challenging the constitutionality of that whole stalking legislation because what it does is it gives judges the power.
Mm-hmm. Just
because somebody goes to court and swears an affidavit to say so and so has been stalking me.
Right.
Then the judge, without giving you a chance to cross-examine the other side, can just sit there and say, okay, now I'm giving a protection order in a favor. To me, it's a violation of the Constitution because the Constitution says you must have a fair trial. Under Section 7.
Yep, I had it pulled up here.
You must have.
Mm-hmm. Under Section 7 of the Constitution, everyone charged with a criminal offense has the right to a fair and public hearing by an independent and impartial court. Trials must be conducted within a reasonable time. Accused persons are presumed innocent until proven guilty. They have the rights to be informed promptly of the charges, have adequate time, and this is synopsis, and facilities to prepare defense, examine witness, and present their own, not be compelled to testify against themselves. Yeah, so there you go. That's under Section 7.
I wasn't given a chance to call any witness to cross-examine and so. Basically, we went to court, and the affidavit was there. Argued it for a short time, and I didn't even know that the judge was going to give a ruling straight away. Then he gave a ruling.
Wow.
So when he gave a ruling, I told the judge, I said, Judge, I have just cited to you the case of Sandra Hill against the Crown, where it was said that in issues relating to human rights, there are certain things that you have to consider, like, for example, the proportionality of what you're trying to do and so forth. But here you are, you have given a ruling, you haven't given your reasoning regarding that case, and yet I cited it to you before. And then he says to me, oh, but that case had to do with a journalist. I said, no, you are totally wrong. That was about freedom of speech in general. In fact, they had denied. Yeah, they had even denied they didn't even recognize Sandra as a journalist. They refused, So they were just talking about the right to freedom of speech in general. So then I told the judge, I said, well, it looks like to me you were ready to make a decision based on what you heard, what the case was. Then he admitted that he had never even read the case.
Oh, wow.
He admitted in court that he had never read the case. So later on, when I said, okay, can you give me the audio of the hearing? Then he said the audio is not there. Now, I'll tell you what I think. I think the audio exists. It is because the audio brings out very, very clearly the things that he did wrong.
Okay. Self-preservation. Self-preservation.
Then he said, well, yeah, then in his ruling, then he said, well, I have now read the case. Having read the case, I think that still it doesn't assist Mr. Simamba. But at the end of the day, I said, well, look, at that point, you had already made a decision. So even when you were going to read
You're
the
not
case,
going to
you were
change your
just
mind.
looking for justification.
Correct.
You're not going to change your mind. Okay. So that one is coming up before the Court of Appeal as well. That one, the date has been fixed. It will be heard on the 31st of August, 2026 now. I was not very happy with the date. I'll try to talk to them to see if I can move it up, but it has been fixed for August the 31st. 2026. You see, it is very important that people should follow that case because all of us are sometimes involved in a tiff, right? Sometimes you send some text to somebody you might use. Let's face it, a lot more people in society these days use the F word and the B word much more than they are ready to admit. So if you have ever done that, do you expect that suddenly somebody will go to court and get an order of protection against you for 12 months and so on and so forth? I mean, it was so ridiculous. This judge, to be frank with you, I was very disappointed because this person I had a tiff with. The tiff ended 7 months before the order was given. Couldn't you say that if 7 months has passed, I mean, there has been no communication between you guys, and the reason that you were having a tiff has ended because the other person who was claiming to exercise powers as a member of the executive committee has resigned from that committee and had left the complex. So what's the problem there? So you see, because a protection order is supposed to be preventive, not punitive. So
wouldn't there have been a statutory of limitations as to when? I mean, and that's what you're trying to point out based on the time, the 7 months lag there. Is that where you're looking at that it was unreasonable for that to have been brought up at the time in which, without going into the specifics?
Yeah, without going into the specifics. Well, you see, one is, you know that I wasn't charged with any criminal offense.
You wasn't?
I wasn't even charged. No, I wasn't. She did go to the police later on, and I understand then they issued an arrest warrant against me. But this case, which went before the court, I did not appear as an accused person. It was just a civil matter. Okay. So, I mean, it raises so many issues. Look at what is happening now with the administrator of CMR, right? They are now saying, oh, again, she's harassing somebody. This is a problem. This will be a problem. This is now clearly what they are trying to do. If they don't like you now, instead of you going to court and saying, you have defamed me, so pay me damages. What people now are doing is they are going to the DPP and saying, hey, prosecute that person because they are harassing me through the podcast. To me, that has become like a loophole that they are trying to use to avoid having to go to court and prove or disprove what is being said. Because remember that if you sue somebody for defamation, they can claim what in law is called justification, which just means that whatever they said was true. Okay? The reason they are charging with this offense of harassment is because the harassment charge, you don't have to show that what the person said was untrue. Okay, so it's much easier. It's much easier. So, I mean, and then with me, what they are trying to charge me with, for which they have issued an arrest warrant, it is under Section 90 of the ICTA law, which is the one under which they had charged Sandra when she went to court and won. But now they are not charging Sandra under Section 90 of the ICTA law because the court has said that there's a problem with that one. So now they've charged her under Section, I think it's 88A or 88B of the Penal Code, because they are trying to see if they can have better luck this time. So that's why my appeal, I think, is very, very important because it raises all these issues. I'll tell you what the Court of Appeal said. What the Court of Appeal said, look, was that if there is any behavior on the part of the person who is complaining, that behavior must be looked at before you say that they've been harassed. In my case, for example, I was just telling the person there, I said, look, you have been sending me bills for 18 months, which I don't owe, which the court has not ordered. And I've told you to stop, and you keep sending them just to get under my skin. So I gave her some choice words. Then she goes to court and then says, well, but he's harassing me. So my thing is that if you are being passively aggressive to somebody and you get under their skin, surely that should be taken into account in considering whether his response can amount to harassment. And the court actually was very clear in that case. They said all these things are relevant, and you should ensure that you do not apply them in such a way that you deny the other person their rights. Like in my case, part of my argument is, look, if you send me to my private email bills I don't owe, you are interfering with my privacy, and you are also interfering with my security of the person. Okay. That is similar to you coming into my yard and standing in my yard. Okay. Or taking a camera and pointing it at my home. Okay. Because you are sending to a private email address bills that I clearly do not owe. You know that we are still supposed to go to court and have them assessed. And you may, in fact, wind up owing me money. And when I tell you to stop, you should stop. And if you don't stop, then there is a way in which you are saying to yourself, I don't care what you do what you like. And then when I try to do something to get you off my back, then you say, hey, that you are harassing me. By the way, the other thing, I was never going to win that. You know what? I don't like playing the race card, but let me tell you what. In that case, the judge was white British. The lawyer on the other side was white British. The legal assistant on the other side was white British. The person who complained was white British. Do you think I had any chance?
Oh, wow. No. Even if you didn't want to go there, it would appear, based on how it played out, the odds were stacked against you.
They were stacked against. That is why when you choose a jury, for example, you take into account those things. Like in Cayman, if you're picking a jury, there is no way in which, if saying it's a rape case, that you are going to have an all-woman jury if the person who is raped is a woman. They'll tell you straight away that this could be possibly a biased jury. That's why in the United States, particularly, if a person accused is black, you have to have some black people on the jury, even if the trial is in a white area. Exactly. So if that principle is good enough to apply to a jury so that there's at least an appearance of justice which might lead to real justice, then how come with me I can go to court in that case and face practically one nationality on the other side? And in my view, that really influenced how the judge dealt with it. But I've appealed it. I think it is important for the Court of Appeal to say something about this stalking law, because it is another law which people are likely to use in future to harass other people, and it will be good to protect the public. But otherwise, these are the issues. I really hope that all these three issues will be able to result in some really significant rulings that will help to assist people. Like this idea, for example, that sometimes there's no record. I understand it's a common problem. Things have disappeared from the judiciary, Sabrina. While they were making orders against me in the Grand Court, they got an order. The Attorney General got an order against me some time back saying, he should not be allowed to bring any case to the Grand Court relating to the same judicial review matter for 2 years because he's a vexatious litigator and so on and so forth. And they got that order for 2 years. But 2 years ended, and then I picked up the case again, okay? And yet, while they were doing that, Sabrina, they deleted some court records in relation to the same matter, okay?
But you had your backup.
I have my backup. I have more than enough. I've got certain recorded things. I've got the written documents and so on and so forth.
And you would have had proof that they were actually there already, because that would the burden of proof would be on you to prove that they had it. But Now you said that they're deleted. All of these things, people don't even realize how important they are.
Yeah. How important, and do you know who found them guilty of that? The ombudsman. I complained to the ombudsman, and the ombudsman found the judicial administration. It was reported in the campus as well as in CMR. It was reported that they said that the ombudsman found the judicial administration guilty of maladministration for deleting a record, not just deleting a record, but also deleting it after I had made an FOI request for it. Okay.
So what was the accountability? What was the repercussions from that? Are we aware if there was anything? Were they, what was the punishment?
Well, you've asked a very good question, because now this will tie into the one about the protection order. What happened was that she recommended the ombudsman that the National Archives and Public Records Act, the National Archive, the Director of National Archives should work with the Judicial Administration to work out some policies regarding the retention and deletion of records. Because under the National Archives and Public Records Law, it says that every public institution must establish and maintain records of its affairs. Okay, every public institution has got that duty. So by them failing to keep that record and even deleting it, they were in violation of that duty. And that act actually says that the deputy governor can either complain to initiate a prosecution against somebody, or it can initiate disciplinary proceedings. But no, I wrote to the deputy governor and I said, no, somebody needs to be disciplined about this, and I cited the law, but I never got an answer from the deputy governor. But the other thing that the ombudsman did was she recommended that the two work together, Judicial Administration and the Director of National Archives. But you know what the problem is? Apparently that wasn't done, because if it had been done, maybe I wouldn't have had this problem of a judge now failing to establish a record. Okay. It is now showing me that they are also ignoring the recommendations which are made. Because if they had been following those recommendations, they could have maybe, the Chief Justice might have sent a circular to say, well, here's a recommendation which has come from the ombudsman. We are now trying to get somebody who can work out a policy of maintaining records. Please ensure that records are kept, Apparently that wasn't done. And then this judge, who is an acting judge anyway, acting judges, Sabrina, if you ever have to go to court, never get an acting judge. If you can get out of an acting judge, forget about it. Those are job seekers. Acting judges very often are already in private practice here or in the UK, and they are looking towards the government to give them consultancy work at some point. Like, for example, Justice Chappell, the one who dealt with Sandra's case and convicted her, he runs a chambers in the UK. Okay, he runs a chambers in the UK, so he is somebody who would be looking to the Cayman government maybe in future to give him some work.
So of course, one would appear as though his rulings would not be it would be biased. He would be. Okay.
It doesn't. The appearance of justice is undermined. Okay?
Yes, that's what I'm.
Yeah. A few years ago, in 2014, 2015, I brought a judicial review against the government. And that judicial review was, some of the things I've been through in Cayman are interesting. After I developed my courses, I tried to teach them in government. They said they were going to facilitate the teaching in government, and then some higher ups, they said, we don't want to have them taught. Then a Caymanian approached me if we could teach them privately. So because I wanted to comply with the rules, I asked for permission, since in Cayman somehow you have to ask for rules. You have to ask for permission. And they refused to give me permission to teach. And I told them, I said, you people, why can't I teach privately? There are about 200 people in the civil service, 200 plus. people in the civil service who are given permission. Some people are even given permission to sell merchandise to the departments in which they work. Some of them have got even written permission from the deputy governor for that. Some people are given permission to coach people, to teach privately at UCCI and so forth. Why can't I get permission? Oh, they said, oh no, because we don't know if what you are going to say is appropriate or that there is a conflict of interest. I said, this is nonsense. You can't tell me that if I teach something which is related to the work I do, then there's conflict, because you teach things you know.
Yeah.
All you can do is you can put a condition to say, I must not discuss any actual case in the department. But that I know anyway. There are people. There's one guy who is an accountant, and he's been working in Cayman for a long time. When he met me down in the supermarket, he said, well, why are these people preventing you to teach? I'm an accountant. I work for government, and I teach privately. And that's the reason why, and I teach privately because it is necessary for me to maintain my registration as an accountant, because that counts as continuing professional development.
Right.
So what was the problem with you? I said, well, I don't know what was the problem with mine. I even took my case to the to the Civil Service Appeals Commission to say, well, look, these people are discriminating against me. Oh, what is the problem in my case? Even that commission couldn't protect me. Okay, they told me, well, your chief officer is entitled to do this. But you can put an appeal to the deputy governor or the portfolio of the civil service, and then they might be able to resolve this. So I told them, I said, but why are you fobbing me off to those people? You've got statutory power to say that the chief officer is right, is wrong. But anyway, it didn't work out. But all this long story is because
would you say that's kicking the can? That's kicking the can down the road and not able to just call it for what it is, for whatever repercussions that would be in your favor, then to say, look, this is outright discrimination. Still didn't get an answer.
You know, all they could have said, like both the portfolio of the civil service as well as the Civil Service Appeals Commission, is to say, well, look, there is no policy in the government which says that nobody can do something privately, like teach privately or carry out private activities. There is always permission. In fact, by that time, there had been an article in the campus actually talking about this very issue. Okay. Oh, by the way, there was in fact an accountant in the portfolio of legal affairs who was doing private work for another institution I won't mention. That institution was a government institution, but she was doing it outside of working hours. So she was being paid separately for that. I even cited that case. I said, if she can do that for a government institution, what is wrong with me being able to teach that outside?
Yeah, and you were teaching anyone, including that of Caymanians, who, of course, here you are in this space doing the same, using yourself as real life case, and you're definitely making waves.
Well, and then I hope that I'm helping certain issues to be understood and helping certain people to be able to fight their own cases or to have the system changed so that people are sufficiently protected. But you know, once by the way, I was also told by the Attorney General when I went to the Civil Service Appeals Commission, and then I said, look, you guys, I'm going to have to go to court about this. The Attorney General wrote me an email, which I still have to this day, where he said that you have no right to dictate that permission should be given to you. I have that in writing. I wrote back to him. I said, no, I'm not dictating anything. All I'm doing is I'm using the law to challenge a decision which I think is unfair. And yet the Attorney General couldn't at least accept that I had the right to challenge it. He thought that by challenging it, I was dictating. So I went to a court of appeal judge. We got into this talk because of the acting judge who now had this judicial review. I was so fed up then. I was ready to leave the portfolio of legal affairs. This was like the last straw of a range of things. So I then brought the judicial review. And you know the judge they gave me, I won't call his name. He was an acting judge. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we sat there, and this judge, I cited all these things to say this is discrimination. This is all this evidence which shows other people are given permission. Why are you saying that with me I can't be given permission? He said on the day of the hearing, at the end. So he said, okay, I've heard the arguments. I'll deliver a ruling later on. However, what is the position of the parties on costs? So I said, well, if I win, I want my costs. The other side, they also said, if we win, we want our costs. And then the judge said, okay, what I will do is that once I give the decision, I will then ask you parties to come back to argue the issue of costs. That's what he said. And I have that on tape. Okay, it was lawfully recorded and I have it on my computer. So you know what happened? When the judgment came, the judgment said, you have lost the case, but in addition, it says that I am out. It said, like I said at the hearing, costs are going to follow the event. In other words, whoever loses will pay costs. Therefore, I'm awarding costs in favor of the Attorney General against Mr. Simamba. That is directly in contradiction to what he said and which I have on tape. This was an acting judge. Do you see? Yeah. And I complained to the Judicial Council again, and again they say there's nothing wrong here. Because to me, he was lying. He was lying. So do you see? I've been through this more than once. That's why this particular one, I'm fighting it very hard, because this one is an even stronger case. That one, what I did is once I lost the case, I was leaving the government anyway. I didn't want to appeal it. It was not worth my time. I was just so sick and tired. I just left it. But I hope that this one will be successful, because I think it is time that a judge is held accountable. Because if he is held accountable, I think it will be a warning to the other judges as well to understand that they can't lie. They have to be very careful what they do. And I mean, I could tell you other things. For example, in this very case, which is going up for judicial review, what this judge did, in addition to lying to say that I had asked for a hearing shortly before the main hearing, that's why he didn't give me a chance to have a remote hearing. In addition to that, he wrote in his judgment, he said that I had not cited any authorities to argue a certain point. I won't get into what the point was. He said that Mr. Simamba argued that the other judge was wrong to decide this case in this way, but he didn't cite, he just made some general statements. He didn't cite any cases. You know what? I cited 53 cases. 53 cases in 4 different categories. There were 4 main issues in that case, and I had cases under each one of those. So if you read his judgment, you imagine that I was just some buffoon coming before a court of law, just making general points. But I had argued 53 cases. Do you see?
Wow.
That is almost as if you are writing a document which will make other people think that I was sort of like a nutcase.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So, but all these are the matters which are coming up in the judicial review, and I'm hoping that of the 22 grounds which I have, the 22 grounds of appeal, maybe they will find 1 or 2 where I can succeed. By the way, this is actually an application for leave. But usually an application for leave, if they give you leave, usually it means you are going to win it, although not always. You remember with Katina Anglin, they gave her leave, but in the end she lost it. Yeah, and that's reasonably common for these matters which require leave, because when they give you leave, all they are saying is, yes, you do have a case here where we want to hear more about it. If they deny you leave, it means that it is so hopeless that there's no point spending time on it.
Well,
but these are the challenges in Cayman, even as we keep dealing with issues of immigration.
Correct.
There are challenges regarding Judicial and Legal Service Commission. I still want to, before I leave you, Sabrina, I want to say I'm disappointed with successive governments which have done some good things here and there. I'm disappointed that they have always refused to address issues regarding the judicial and legal service. I think that they should amend the Judicature Act to create a quota for Caymanians in the judiciary. They should amend the Legal Practitioners Act to create a quota for Caymanians to be made KCs and QCs. It is a shame that somebody of the distinction of David Rich, Steve McField, and a lot of other people, Caymanians, none of them has been made a KC, and yet they have given KC-ship to one person who is on the Judicial Commission right now. That person has never conducted a single case in the Cayman Islands.
Oh, wow.
They came to the Cayman Islands. Yeah, they came to the Cayman Islands in about 1999. That's when they came to the Cayman Islands. Then about 20 years later, which is 2018, they were made a KC. During that time, they've never conducted a single case in the Cayman Islands, and yet they were made a KC. This person is from Guyana. And they came from the Bahamas and the Barbados and Trinidad, where they didn't do any court work. They last did court work like 40 years before that. And yet those people can come to the Cayman Islands and become a KC. And yet your own people cannot become KCs. And it is time, Caymanians, you accepted, Caymanians, that in Cayman, they have forced you to be third-class citizens. Because the first-class citizens, in my view, are a certain bunch of people at the top. There are all races in the first-class citizens, but most of them are British, a few Canadian. They are the first class. The second-class citizens are Jamaicans, a few white people, but mostly people from the Eastern Caribbean. That's a second-class citizen. And Caymanians have been put as a third-class citizen. And to me, I believe that government must look into that. I saw Andre today, the Honorable Andre Ebanks today, talking about these issues. And I think he's doing some really good effort regarding Caymanians being given opportunities. And I really liked the way he sounded. But I just think that there's just a whole side of things which is not being addressed at all. And I think it is going to cause a problem in Cayman unless it is dealt with.
Oh, wow.
Well, Sabrina, let me leave you there.
Profound words that you've said there. And you're not going to just leave so, because Shaka Zulu is saying, you are definitely winning with the court of public opinion, sir. This is the side of law that the average layman doesn't get to see before being trusted in or thrust into the injustice. Now, let me tell you something. And we have also another comment from Leonard Franklin. Same in Turks and Caicos, where talking silk is concerned. But what I'm saying is people are being educated. And it's unfortunate and almost fortunate. Oh, God, you got to say that, both sides. But you get where I'm coming from this, that you've had to go through all of this. It's like you're taking the bruises, the beating, to open up the eyes of some of the realities that are happening. And for those who may have been dealt with unfairly, but weren't even able to identify it or had the will to even fight it. When you said making KCs here in the Cayman Islands, and you've named a few, was it just frustration, or they didn't probably see themselves as being worthy of it, or they just get tired of the system and hope that a younger generation would fight the fight? Why? How do you become one if because they did wonders in the space? And you wonder why they didn't fight for it, or it's not like that within that space. How does that work?
Well, you know, Sabrina, now I don't know how they do it now. I know traditionally in the UK you have to apply for. It is called silk. The reason they call it silk is because because once you become a KC, your gown is no longer that ordinary gown. It's a silk gown. You know, so that so that you take silk. Now you normally apply for it. I imagine in Cayman that's the way it is. But let me redate something which I can safely say, because about 2-3 weeks ago, this issue came up on OC's show, and Steve did mention on that show that there was some time back when David Rich himself and a number of other lawyers put in their papers.
Mm-hmm.
This is I understand this was a long time ago.
Right.
He said they put in their papers and that they were rejected. Instead, they decided to give them some kind of award of some kind, but not to make them KCs. Okay, so these are things that people have tried and
So
have
once
failed.
you're denied
see,
once, you can't reapply for it? I mean, just for education purposes.
No, you can reapply for it because actually a lot of people apply for more than once because there's no limitation, since in some countries, actually, they have a limitation on how many can be granted per year because they don't want to cheapen it. Okay. Now, I don't know that in Cayman it's like that. I know in some countries they do. So, and then sometimes they would just say, okay, this guy, I think, is all right, but we might say maybe let me reapply another 3 years and so on. Maybe might have done more. So you can always reapply. But from what I understand, this is not what Steve said. From what I understand, there is a way that they got fed up with just the idea of the discrimination that they were getting. So they decided maybe there's no point, proceeding with this. Let me give you an example, of how children can be stunted in terms of the way they view themselves. I was told, okay, let me tell the story of what happened when South Africa was eventually now becoming democratic. This is 1994. Now, in South Africa, the white people there were told that black people were down. They could play soccer because soccer doesn't involve much thinking, but they can't play cricket because cricket is a thinking man's game. The same stereotypes they used to have, like in America, where it used to be thought that black people can't be quarterbacks. Why? Because they don't have the right emotion, they don't have the right leadership, they don't have the right smarts to play quarterback. Right now, today, black quarterbacks are overrepresented. But anyway, so this is what happened. So what the Mandelas did at that time, because now they were working to try and de-brainwash the black people in America, in South Africa. They invited the West Indian cricket team to come and play in South Africa. And the idea was to get this West Indian team, which is predominantly, almost exclusively people of color, to come and play a team in South Africa, which is exclusively white, to do well and maybe even beat them, because the idea was to continue deprogramming them, to let them know that even if they say this is a thinking man's game, look at how many black and brown people are playing it well. Unfortunately, that tour didn't take place at that particular time because there were problems with money and so on and so forth. But the reason I tell the story is because in every society, you can be brainwashed depending on what you see. In Cayman, when kids who are going through school don't see Caymanians who are KCs, they tend to think in their own mind that maybe we are not that smart.
And we're not good enough. We're not good enough. We'll never reach there.
Exactly. We'll never reach there. But what you need to do, is they need to understand that they're as good as anybody, and therefore, if other people can, the Steves, the Wade Da Costas, the Brian Hunters, you name all the local lawyers, if they can go there and also become KCs, then they will know that, well, look, nobody's smarter than us. We are just as good as anybody else.
Right.
But apparently, a number of people in Cayman don't think of it that way. Okay, they do not think of it that way, because if you don't think of it that way, without the kids even really being conscious of it, there is an inferiority complex which develops in
it's
them.
like they have nothing relatable that they can aspire to. Like, okay, I want to be like the Wades. I want to be like, you understand what I'm saying? They don't see it being represented, so there's nothing for them to aspire. Like the David Rich you've called out. Now, I want to be the next David Rich. You don't hear Caymanians really, like what you're pointing out, saying, I would one day want to be like this person and that person is the space is not there.
they are being forced to say, I want to be like X,
Yes.
who happens to be a British KC.
Or
okay?
somewhere else from another part of the world, or somebody else that is not local. But you don't have very much local persons that say, I want to be the next great. And then that name comes out, that's Caymanian. The mere fact that we're doing this right now and we have to pause, that confirms exactly what you're trying to say.
Yeah, it is a problem. Again, let me call another name, because this one really, we have called it in other talk show hosts have called it. You tell me today why Suzanne Bothwell, a lawyer who did litigation for 16 years, and then she moved on to the judiciary to be court administrator. I believe they sent her to the UK about 2 or 3 months to do the administrative side of court, which assists you even as a judge. Then she became court administrator, which was a promotion. But I would imagine, like a lot of people, she probably wanted to be a judge. Why couldn't she be a judge? There was a position which was opened up, which they gave to Emma Peters. I think Emma Peters started work last year or late the other year, while Suzanne Bothwell was in the judiciary. For you to be a Grand Court judge, you only need 10 years experience. The total experience that Suzanne had was more than 20 years. You tell me why she couldn't even be Assistant Solicitor General, Deputy Solicitor General, Solicitor General. Nothing. They couldn't give her even any of those. And yet they gave those positions to some people from the Eastern Caribbean. One was a Caymanian with a very strong Jamaican connection. They gave it to another Canadian who used to be there. And so, but with her, she just remained as a Crown Counsel. And just sort of like to mollify her, they sent her to become courts administrator. And then after she was there, she left. Now, I don't know why she left. My own suspicion, I would not direct knowledge. My suspicion is that she probably would have been a little bit frustrated. And now they have brought her back. Oh yeah, first of all, they made her a part-time magistrate. Somebody who at that point should be a judge, you made her part-time magistrate, then she stopped doing that. And now they have brought her back, they say, as some kind of consultant to help them build a certain office. I think it's the office relating to the disciplining of judges or something like that. To me, this is just the same people who blocked her from getting a real job like a judge. They have now brought her back to sort of like to mollify her and say, okay, we'll give you this. Do you see how that classification works? Do you see? They have given her basically a third-class job.
So who do you blame? Okay, extrapolate that story out. Small island development states, like what you rightfully have just described. And I don't know the story behind all of that. But would you have said maybe one of the disadvantage of small island development states is that many of us do not even know our value, what we're worth, and therefore for what you have just described, one's value is so much more, but you've just described that as third class. And we even see where Denver has said here, yes, I believe Caymanians realize that they're third class citizens in our own country. Just a mere fact of saying that, it's almost accepting, but that's not what we should accept. How do you actually fight it and said, I know my worth, and it doesn't matter whether it's in the judiciary, the legal space, or just the common gardener. You understand what I'm saying? I know my worth. Yeah. Have we sold ourselves too short because we have capitulated? We have just given up. We have lost the drive. Or is it because even those who get the opportunity to be in a certain space, to make change, to actually elevate others, before they look at what you bring to the table, they tear you down. The small-mindedness, they dig up into your personal life. They look at how you dress. They look at how you walk. They look at all of that. Besides, I guess, bottom line is you can't see the forest for the trees. And then we end up automatically putting ourselves first, third class.
Okay, you see, that's a very important question, because For me, the way I see Caymanians, when you live in the Cayman Islands, you are more or less as good as living in the US or in the UK. Okay?
But we don't behave
That's
that
the way.
way. We don't behave that way, that we have value, that we have worth. It's like we settle for whatever is given. And then if you fight like what you're doing, you're blackball, or you got an attitude, you got a chip on your shoulder. That person is too arrogant, they're too aggressive. Oh, that's a troublemaker. And then the system and society, unfounded, continues to beat you down, no fault of yours.
You see, Sabrina, my view is that Caymanians know their value, most of them. There might be a few maybe who really don't know their value, but I think the overwhelming number of Caymanians know their value. The problem is that they do not get the support they need from the government for them to achieve what they want to achieve. Do you think that Suzanne Bothwell somehow thinks that she is not as good as any lawyer from the UK or from the Eastern Caribbean? Come on.
No.
She has gone to court and argued court cases with the lawyers from the UK, local ones, and this and that, and confidently and everything. Okay? But the problem is, if the people who run the system, that is the government, they are not ready to make it possible for you to advance, and they are in league with the people who come from outside the Cayman Islands, it doesn't matter what you think about yourself. If it is not possible for them to support you, it won't work.
Or maybe like Leonard Franklin said, she cannot be controlled. She's independent-minded. And exactly like how you've stood up for something, it looks as though that is what's happening, that being an independent-minded individual, standing for something and not falling for anything, is actually used against people nowadays in societies, that what we're seeing.
Yeah. Do you know, I mean, when I was in the Cayman Islands, working in the portfolio of legal affairs, I think I mentioned to you last time about how when I offered to train a Caymanian, previously they acknowledged my expertise, but as soon as I wanted to train a Caymanian, they needed now an excuse to say why I shouldn't train the Caymanian. The problem wasn't so much me, it was because they wanted to find an excuse for not training the Caymanian. So suddenly they told me that my quality of work is not good. Now, they had renewed my contract 5 times. Again, I have said on the show before, for the last about 12 years, I've been teaching online qualified lawyers in Canada on how to write legislation in the university in which I teach. I was doing that even when I was in the portfolio of legal affairs, because it is not like a lectureship. I am assigned students, about 5 or 6 per year, and those students have got, it's a self-study assignment where I guide them, I mark their assignments, and at the end of the day, at the end of the year, I put in their final grades. We have a final meeting to see how are we going to teach legislative drafting for the next year and so forth. And I mean, I have written papers published in Oxford, University of Cambridge, University of Oxford, University of London, relating to legislative drafting and other things. I mean, I've done so many things. And yet, after about almost, at that time, maybe 40 years of experience in the area, somebody who was coming from another part of the Caribbean, who has never achieved anywhere near what I have achieved, was telling me now that I was not fit to train anybody. And you know what the Caymanian then said? She said, well, if they can say about Bill Simamba that even he is not fit to train anybody, what chance do I have as a young drafter who has just gotten a master's degree? What chance do I have? Okay. Now, when that Caymanian was being suppressed, she didn't get support from anybody. She didn't get support from anybody. Up to today, she has been there now 15, 18 years. She hasn't had even one promotion. Nobody is assisting her. Now, let me mention one thing which happened one time when we were in the Legislative Assembly. Kenneth Bryan brought a motion when he was in the backbench before he came and became a minister. It was about 2018 or about 2017. He said, you know what? Why don't we create some targets and say that the head and deputy head of all government institutions should be Caymanian within 5 years? He asked for very little. He didn't ask for much. Neither the government supported him and neither the opposition supported him. But the reason I bring up the story is because of the acting deputy governor who was in Parliament then. I'll call her name because it was publicly saying. This was Gloria McField-Nixon. In responding to that motion, she said, you see, there is already enough preference being given to Caymanians in all these jobs. You see, if we give them any more preference than they are getting now, it means that these positions are going to be cheapened. I couldn't believe I was hearing that. And I said, this is what brainwashing looks like.
I need
If you go
Mr.
to Canada,
Dalika, for the matter of emphasis, because some people may not have caught what you said.
Okay.
Can you just break that down again so that everybody follows? Because it plays into the whole line that people have been saying here, how they feel. That we're fighting one against a system that is fighting back to keep us down. And that when Caymanians stand up for ourselves, they're blacklisted as troublemakers or sad. Or that we are actually third class we're realizing. But now that puts it to a different level. So please, for those who may have missed it, please repeat what you just said.
Okay. Let me try to repeat it, but also expand on it. When you are in any country, the rule in any country is that the local people take precedence. Okay? They take precedence. If there is a job and the job requires 5 years experience, if there is a local person who meets that, they will give a work permit to you. Even if there is a foreigner who has got 20 years experience. Okay? Why? Because if you can do the job, you meet the requirements, they should give it to you, and then you can grow in the job. Now, in Cayman, it doesn't quite work like that, certainly in government, because in government, what the Public Service Management Law says, there are 2 sections there. It says that a Caymanian should only be given preference if the qualifications of the Caymanian and the non-Caymanian are roughly at the same level. Okay? If they are roughly at the same level. In other words, if you are a Caymanian and you have got 5 years experience, which is what is required, but if a foreigner has got 10 years experience, that is effectively saying that they should give it to the foreigner, because then your qualifications are not at the same level.
Correct.
But if you've both got about 5 years experience, maybe the Caymanian might have maybe a month or 2 less or 6 months less, then they'll say, okay, in that particular case, give it to a Caymanian. But nobody does it like that, because that doesn't even give you any advantage. Where I came from, I became a head of department after I had 10 years experience, 3 years studying, 7 years working, I became head of department. If they had said I should compete with people from the UK, from Nigeria, from South Africa, in the country I was in, I was never going to get the job. Okay? So in Cayman, you have to give people preference. Look at, the director of, the chief fire officer. The chief fire officer, not the one who was there, the one who was there, I think, before, the former. That chief fire officer only had 3 O-levels. Now, the legal qualifications that he had, rather the formal qualifications he had, were not sufficient to meet the requirements of the job, actually. They did not. But what they did, they employed him because he was from the UK, although he had only 4 O-levels. And then they said, he's going to train because he's got experience in training people. They employed him. In other words, they gave him an exemption from the requirements of the job. Why? Just because he's from the UK. Meanwhile, there were people in that department who had even a master's in fire science, and they were not appointed. And they had experience, and they had local experience. Apparently in Cayman, local experience doesn't count for anything, but the experience from the UK counts for something. So that's what they did. Okay, so I have advocated for this many, many times on many talk shows. Say, amend those provisions so that they say very clearly that if you qualify for a job, if there's no other problems, they should be able, in fact, if anything, to just promote you into that position. Why? Because you are doing well. Or if they advertise a job, even if there's somebody from the UK who's more qualified, but if you meet the requirements, that they should give you the job.
Mm-hmm.
But and yet, what Gloria was saying on behalf of the government was that if we give more preference, then we'll be cheapening those jobs. Those people will look like they don't deserve the jobs. But then you see what I was saying is that, look, I have never met a Caymanian who says, I want a job I'm not qualified for. They are just saying, if I qualify for the job,
Give me a
I
chance.
should be
Yes.
given the job.
Yes.
Give me a chance. Okay. Look at the other case which happened in the Registrar of Lands some time back. There was a Caymanian there, as we wind down here, there was a Caymanian there who was, I think, a deputy registrar of lands or something like that. She didn't have a law degree, but had a lot of experience. It was agreed that that position should now require somebody with a law degree. Where I came from, what they would do is they would say, okay, in the transitional time, we would give this person 4 or 5 years to study for law so that they can qualify. Okay, and then they can step into the position. Rather than do that for that lady, they changed the requirements of the job. Then they said you don't qualify for the job. They advertised for the job, and then it turned out that actually they had planned a long time ago to remove her from the position. Then they gave the job to somebody else. And when the deputy governor was asked, he said, "Oh, but there's nothing wrong with that," and so forth. But you can't make progress if the attitude of the deputy governor is like that. Just like one time it was said, somebody asked the deputy governor, said, "Look, DG, why are you using government money to train expatriates?" And his answer was, "Well, I can't stop anybody from training." No, that's not right. In any country you go to, an expatriate should come to do the job and teach people how to do the job. They don't come to learn the job. In fact, what happened, if I can go back to the chief fire officer, chief fire officer, he ended up, when he came here, he's the one who was going for seminars. He wasn't training anybody. And then we made an issue out of it with Woody Da Costa and other people on crosstalk, on the old crosstalk. And we exposed the whole thing and so forth. And then at the end of the contract that he left.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, the government, I believe, is not doing enough de facto
Gotcha.
to be able to assist people. Yeah. So that's the issue. Well, it's 6:58. I have to leave you there so that you can wind up. I thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Who have sent in. I thank the people who sent in comments. It's always nice to hear from them and respond. I thank you really for this community that you have established. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Shaka Zulu said, yes, as we wind down and come to the close of today's episode of Sabrina Speaks, as we embark on the weekend, Shaka Zulu said, in the case of the Caymanian firefighter, they could have put a qualified foreigner to assist Caymanian chief instead of removing the Caymanian if marginal qualifications were a concern. Thank you for that feedback. But we all see how that ended up. And here we do have a Caymanian now at the helm. And that, like what we are saying, all we have to do is support one another. There's bigger issues going on here. There's real talk that needs to be had, because we cannot sit down and allow the type of feelings that we are feeling based on the comments that we've seen here. Yes, I bet that, like we're third-class citizens in our own country. The more we actually hear this, even if it does not come out in the same way, and we behave a certain way for standing up for our rights, it actually brings this into reality, and that is not who we are. But like what we're saying, step by step, the silent majority can no longer be silent. And we need to speak. We need to support each other. We need to stop tearing down one another, because we see where it's getting us. The mere fact that this comment is right here is exactly the result of when the crab in the barrel mentality steps in, and we are bigger, better, and smarter than that. But if there's a gaping hole, it's going to be filled. And what we're seeing right now, based on the conversations that we're having, it's not being filled by our own. It has been my pleasure bringing you another episode of Sabrina Speaks. I want to thank each and every one of you for your loyalty, for your dedication in tuning in, and now getting very comfortable and speaking out and speaking up. Until Monday, please do have a safe weekend, and God bless. Love you lots. Take care of one another, and always remember to have something nice to say.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.